How to make jam. My name is Marnie McCracken. I work as a farm production extension specialist for Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development out of the office in Paw, Manitoba. There are freezer jams or uncooked jams, but today we're going to make a batch of cooked raspberry jam. Making a cooked jam is a multi-step process, but once you make one kind of fruit jam, in this case raspberry, the process is basically the same for any other kind of fruit jam. Canning supplies for making a cooked jam include a water bath canner with a lid and an inside rack. Any large pot will work. It just needs to be tall enough to fit 1 to 2 inches of water over the top of the tallest jar without boiling over. Canning jars. Always use jars and lids designed for home canning. Do not reuse grocery store jars that once held spaghetti sauce, mayonnaise, or other foods. Snap lids and rings that come in 2 pieces. The flat metal lid must be new, while the rings can be reused as long as they aren't bent or rusty. A jar lifter, a small pot of hot, not boiling water, a magnetic lid lifter, a wide mouth funnel, a large spoon, a clean cloth and clean kitchen towel, some regular household vinegar to prevent water stains and mineral buildup from hard water on jars, labels and/or a marker. Supplies for the cooked raspberry jam using pectin include unsweetened raspberries. The amount is indicated in the pectin recipe insert, about 4 cups either picked, fresh, or frozen and thawed. Sugar. Use the amount in the recipe exactly and don't cut down on sugar as it helps the jam to set. Lemon juice. A large heavy pot to cook the jam in. The pot must be big enough so that when the jam boils hard, it will not boil over. A potato masher and a medium-sized bowl, some measuring cups, a non-metallic stirring utensil, a large spoon, and some pectin. Pectin is a natural product from fruit. You can make jam without using pectin, but using pectin speeds up the cooking process and reliably results in the jam gelling or setting. Pectin can be found where canning supplies are sold. It comes in liquid or crystal forms, which are not interchangeable, so stick to one kind. The insert in the pectin box provides information on the preparation needed for the fruit being used, whether raspberry, blueberry, or other common fruits. It includes recipes, cooking directions for cooked jams, for jellies, how to prepare the jars, and some troubleshooting tips. We are going to use the recipe instructions right off this pectin insert. Let's get started. Wash the jars with hot soapy water and check them for nicks or cracks. Fill the water bath canner with the jars and clean hot water. Add a couple of capfuls of regular vinegar to the water. Sterilize the jars in boiling water in the water bath canner. Meanwhile, heat the lids in hot, but not boiling water in a small pot on the stove. Cut the corner off of the liquid pectin packet and place it upright and ready in a cup or container. Crush the raspberries one layer at a time. This is more important with fresh berries as they are more firm than the thawed berries that we are using. In a large pot, mix together the required amount of crushed berries that are indicated in the recipe insert. Measure and add the lemon juice and sugar and stir everything together. Over high heat, bring the jam to a full rolling boil. Stirring constantly, boil the jam hard for 1 minute. When the instructions say to boil hard, it's a boil that cannot be stirred down. Remove the jam from heat and immediately add the pectin, stirring well and according to recipe instructions. Stir and skim the jam for 5 minutes and remove the foam or any floating fruit. The floating fruit and foam that you remove is fine to use. You just do not want it taking up space in your jars. Using the jar lifter, lift the sterilized jars out of the water bath canner and place them by the pot of jam. Ladle the jam into the jars using the wide mouth funnel. Using a non-metallic utensil, remove any air bubbles. Check that jars are filled to within 1/4 inch from top. You can just use a regular ruler for this as well. And adjust the levels by removing or adding jam to the jars. Wipe the jar rims with a clean damp cloth so that there's no debris that will interfere with the lids adhering to the jars. Center the lids on the jars. Screw on the jar rings finger tight. Do not over tighten the jars. Finger tight is tight enough. For extra insurance against spoilage and to ensure the lids seal, you can process the jam in a water bath canner. Using the jar lifter, set the jars back into the water bath canner. Cover the tallest jar with 1 to 2 inches of water and return the pot to a boil. Boil the jars for 10 minutes. When 10 minutes is done, turn off the burner. Wait until the water is not bubbling, and without tilting them, remove the jars onto a clean, dry towel on the counter. Don't put them on a cold surface or they may crack and break. Let the jars cool undisturbed for 24 hours. Once cooled, check the seals by tapping or pressing on the lids. If they're sealed, the lids will be inverted or sucked down onto the jars. If they're not sealed, the center of the lid will be popped up and will make a different sound when tapped. That jar in the front was not sealed, and if they're not sealed, you can put that jam into the fridge and use that jam first. For any troubleshooting, such as if the jam doesn't set, check the insert sheet on the pectin package for how to resolve those issues. Label the jars on the lid and store them in a cool, dark location. Cooked jam can be stored unopened for a year. It is still safe to use past this point unless it shows obvious signs of spoilage. Check out the Manitoba government website under the Indigenous and Northern Relations webpage for specific information to Northern Manitoba. It's under the Northern Healthy Foods Initiative. Also check out the Northern Gardening playlist on Manitoba Agriculture's YouTube channel.